everybody and welcome to another episode of Essex Answers. Today we are here with Katie Finnimore. She's a specialist of employability and we invited her here to discuss a bit about writing a CV and a cover letter and also what the employers are actually looking for in our CVs and cover letters. So, thank you very much, Katie, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And can you tell us a bit about you and your job in employability?
Yes, of course. Well, I'm the Careers Information Assistant in the Employability and Careers Centre at the University of Essex. I've been in my role for about 2 months now. And basically, if students have any inquiries about how to write a CV or where to find part-time work or postgraduate study, they'll come in to see us, and I'm probably one of 3 people that they'll see to start with before referring them on to either a faculty employability officer or a careers advisor for more detailed information.
Okay, thank you very much. But now relating to our topic, I'm going to ask you the first question. What are the most common mistakes that people are doing in their CVs?
I think probably the most common issue is spelling and grammatical errors, especially if you're actually in the UK. Quite often there is a US spell check on Word, so Americanisms such as organised spelled with a Z rather than an S are quite common. So if you are in the UK, that's one to definitely watch out for. Another one I would say is quite typically people can be too generalised in the information. So if you're including something in your CV, it's really important to be very specific about what you're including, why it's important and why it's relevant to your application, so that you really are adding value to the application with everything you're putting on your CV. A third one is people just listing their skills. It's quite easy to say that I'm double jointed, but if you asked me to lick my elbow in an interview, I wouldn't be able to do it. So you need to provide some evidence of whatever skills you're saying that you have. Think about where and when did you use them, and make sure that they're included within your work experience or your interests and hobbies even. I'd say the last thing as well is, especially for students, considering yourself to not have any relevant experience can be quite a common trap to fall into. Anything can evidence skills as long as you think about it in the right way. So even if it's kind of office-based, retail, even babysitting work, will all demonstrate skills. And also, if you've got sporting interests, they can show things like teamwork. So it's really trying to think about what are you doing in your various roles or in the various parts of your life, and what skills does that involve, so that you can then communicate them on your CV.
I understand. So, is this structure also available for adults, say for people who already have a large range of experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think as you kind of develop throughout your work history, you will have more work experience that you can draw upon. But even so, transferable skills and soft skills are still important. And so I think it's important to show that you have a range. You're not just a professional person, you also have interests outside of work. But generally, as you go through your career, you'll probably find that your evidence is coming more from work experience than from sporting activities, say, or outside interests.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so basically, speaking of something more specific in the CV, speaking of skills and experience. So what is most attractive to an employer between skills and experience?
You need a blend, I would say. I've worked in recruitment previously, and I've both found candidates for companies, and I've also been an employer looking for candidates. And you could have someone who's got the best experience in the world, but if you don't buy into them as a person, you probably won't give them the job. So you kind of want to like someone and want them to get the job. That's the way that your application will be most powerful. So it is a combination of experience and skills, but also how you demonstrate those in your CV. So things like, if your CV is well written and relevant to your application, that's going to be one of the most attractive points to an employer.
That's already a skill, because the way you're writing, because sometimes a lot of applications require like academic writing or formal writing, so maybe that would be a way of demonstrating the ability.
Absolutely, and using a range of experience as well, so it doesn't all have to come from a specific employment. You know, if you've worked for a couple of different places, especially in an interview situation, you would want to draw on more than one of those experiences when you're evidencing why you're suitable for that role, to show that you are well-rounded and it wasn't just a one-off, that you were able to use that skill.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because students or future employees they struggle with how to manage with this kind of application. And what should stand you know, the most, like my skills or my past experience. So yeah, this is an interesting point.
Yeah, and you definitely have to blend the two together, because it's all very well saying I've done this and this and this, but if you don't link it to your skills, essentially you want to make it as easy as possible for the person who's reading it to say, yes, I want that person, and I can see very clearly that out of the stack of CVs I'm reviewing, this person has demonstrated that they've got the skills and attributes and experience where relevant that I'm looking for.
That's good. Okay.
We still, if let's say we have all of this that we've discussed, is there anything else that we need to put in order to stand out the CV in front of the others?
I think having come from recruitment where I was reviewing a lot of CVs, I would definitely say that even the seemingly simple things like spell checking, getting a friend or a family member to read your CV, this is so important, because it takes a lot of time to write a CV and you put a lot of energy into it, and you get to a point where maybe you can't see the wood for the trees. You just can't see that spelling error because you've looked at it for hours on end. So if you've got someone that you can drop into or ask to read it for you, that's really important. Making sure that your CV really is tailored to every application. So again, going back to what I was saying earlier about is it really clear that what you're including is relevant? That is absolutely vital. And be specific in your experience and your work examples.
I see. And let's say, just in case you did some, okay, let's say in the case of volunteering, you did something which is a group working.
Yeah.
And you can't show to the light your specific skills that you demonstrated.
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
Group working can be a tricky one because you know, you work with people day in, day out in most of the roles that you do, and at some point you're going to need to rely on a colleague or a peer for help or guidance. So it's a case of making sure that if you personally did something, or you developed an idea, or you created a new system that streamlined a process, it's important that you state on your CV that it was you who did it. But equally, teamwork is a really important skill on its own as well. So if you are working as part of a team, you know, it may well be that you want to include that as well, because you don't want to take credit for someone else's work, but you need to be able to distinguish between what you did to come up with that and what everyone did as a group, because they're both valuable skills.
Exactly.
Okay, so I have a question about the length of the CV in terms of layout. Because in the past I've applied for an American job, and the requirement was that I need to you know, compress all of the information into one page.
Yes.
But then in the case of front runners at Essex, 2 pages were well enough. So what is the average of length of a CV page for?
If you're applying in the UK, 2 pages is traditional. I would always recommend that you check any application guidance when applying for a job. Because sometimes employers will ask for a 1-page CV. The important thing, of course, is that if they are asking for a shorter CV, it's where do you reduce the information. I think with any length CV, it's important that the most relevant information is at the top. So for example, including interests and hobbies is important because it demonstrates more about you as a person, and it's an opportunity for you to differentiate yourself from everyone else who's applying. but make sure that it's below your work experience rather than at the very top of the CV. And if you're outside of the UK or you're applying for a position outside of the UK, there are resources available, such as the Prospects website, which give guidance on individual countries and the expectations for their CVs.
I see. Okay.
Now, speaking about the cover letter, what can you tell us, what is the best way to structure a cover letter? What do we need to include in a cover letter?
Well, cover letter is an opportunity for you to expand on what you've got in your CV. It is important to remember that if you are applying for a job and they request a cover letter and a CV, there's two ways that they can read it. They're either going to read your CV first and then your cover letter, or they're going to read your cover letter and then your CV. So it's really important that you put almost equal energy into your cover letter and your CV, and your cover letter for every job that you apply for should be very different from the last, because it really should be tailored to that position. So you can get clues for what to include in your cover letter through company websites. There will be information on their values and their ethics, and you may want to incorporate some of those soft skills and values into your cover letter. But it's also an opportunity for you to be a bit more yourself, because CVs are very structured and there are traditional ways of writing them, and quite often we write them in the third person, which can make it very difficult to show passion for a subject or a particular element of a job that you are applying for.
So what you tell us is to be ourselves.
Yeah, very much so. You still want to be professional, but it is an opportunity to say, I've seen this job and this is why I really want to apply for it, and this is what I can bring to it. Still making sure that you're evidencing what you're saying you can do. So general tips, like I say, look at the job description, look at the people specification, see what kind of things they're looking for, what personality traits, what soft skills they're looking for, and make sure that you're evidencing those within your covering letter. Within the UK as well, I would say keep a covering letter to one page, so that it's targeted, it's focused, but it doesn't waffle on. And just remember that you can't rely on your cover letter to get them to read your CV, because they may read your CV first. So if you've got really important information, it kind of needs to be in both, but maybe presented in slightly different ways.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Well, I think guys, I think this information are very useful for you.
Yes, we thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for watching this video. And don't forget to send us questions at essexanswers@gmail.com. Thank you very much and see you next week.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.